Call the meeting to order. First thing to do is act on the agenda.
I move to accept it. Oh, no,
You
you were
need to
gonna
amend
act,
it.
yeah.
The select board report for the town report. And zoning appointments. Need to go over. I add those two.
I move that we accept the agenda as amended.
Yeah, I second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Act on the minutes in the November 25th meeting.
I move that we accept the minutes as written.
I second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. There's a lot of public here, so about that. Budgeting.
You want to do our new business items,
Yeah.
the two
Yeah,
additions,
let's do those first.
tuck those away?
Yep. So zoning appointments, maybe.
So, Joe Fromberger came and reminded me that this is the time of year where you all, appoint or reappoint members to the zoning board. The two people whose terms are up this time around are Joe Fromberger and Dexter Brown. And we haven't heard, Joe would be interested in continuing to serve, and Dexter has not said one way or the other. So might I suggest?
I think Dexter said he didn't want to. Got an email from him. That he was at odds with the town over his beavers. You know,
Okay, so he doesn't want to serve any longer?
Yeah.
Well, you can certainly reappoint Joe and then we can.
He's at odds with the town over what?
beavers. He was in his beaver pond.
Oh. Does he want the beavers to stay or he doesn't want the beavers?
Awesome.
Are we going after his beavers?
Charlie keeps letting water out of the dam to keep him.
From flooding the road.
Oh, from flooding the road, okay. I'm sorry. It just was funny, he's at odds with the town, okay, so Charlie's okay, all right. All right, so I move that we appoint Joe, reappoint Joe.
Yeah, I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
And this is just a side note about beavers in a pond. There's something called the beaver deceiver, and there's a guy over in Townsend that actually makes these and they work. So if somebody reminds me or gives me Dexter's.
They're working on that anyway.
Yeah.
On one of those.
Yeah. Yeah. Is it the guy in Townsend?
I don't know. They call him. I remember what the other name was. I just said beaver deceiver, but
Yeah. that's what he
Same
calls
thing.
them. But it works.
What does it do?
Diverts. It does this thing with the water, so it makes it not sound the same way. And
Oh,
So
yeah,
they don't have the urge to dam.
so
Yeah.
they're not, I see what you're
Yeah.
saying, so it makes it a little less attractive to the
There's
beavers.
guys.
I mean, they'll stay there, but they'll be less inclined to
To
feel
do
like they have to
something
dam
crazy,
it all the
yeah,
time.
yeah, okay.
So we would publicize that there's an opening on. Or
Yeah.
whatever, somebody will. Want to
Did we
do it.
vote aye on Joe?
yeah.
Okay.
Select board report from town report.
I need a volunteer to write one. I'm putting together the town report. Usually there's a select board report.
Don't you usually write it?
Yeah, I can do it.
I move that we have Chris write the town report, select board report for the town report.
I second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We should go on the highways and garage on the agenda for budgeting. There's not much to report on the road commissioner's report other than Charlie had to take his truck down to took it down for a clutch break, and by the time they got done with it, it had $14,000 on it. It's back. And I think they did a pretty good job the last few days with the conditions.
Oh, yeah.
We had to get our first 2 loads of salt.
Right?
Yeah. So what about this project maintenance software proposal?
So I emailed that to everyone.
Yeah,
Yeah. I was wondering, I mean, I would just go along with your suggestion that we probably might be out of our budget, or whatever you feel, but I do have a question, like, say if there were like another really bad flood, is that something you could get all of a sudden, or does it take a long time to get it? Like if we were really in the middle of the flood like we were before, you might sort of want it, right?
We could, certainly, we could approach them. It's because it's software.
Mhm.
I think it's fairly simple to load in and start using.
Okay.
The actual work to load information to it might take some time,
oh, right.
like getting
Mhm.
our road names into it and customizing it the way we use things. But that would be the case even if we got it now. So that was the push and pull with it for Charlie, was so I can either keep writing notes in my notebooks and keeping really careful track, and we've made some improvements and streamlined and learned things from the flood, or I can sit with a tablet and customize and do all these things in this system so that we could push a button and get reports for FEMA,
Right,
which, yeah, in that time would be helpful. It would have cut my time down a lot, but what kind of time would he be putting into
Right.
getting it set up?
Right.
That's the only, I mean, it makes all the sense in the world for larger municipalities,
Right.
honestly.
Yeah.
We weren't quite sure why the salesperson was so interested in talking to us, honestly.
Looking for sale.
Yeah,
And it's pricey. And
Yeah,
I
I
would think that they wouldn't be able to make everything, individualize it enough for our little town.
I mean, that's
so-
possible. What we saw, I mean, he had, a sample one all set up so we could click on, roads and where the projects were at and all of that. But again, how does all that information get in there? So
Right,
you're
right.
saving me time on the FEMA end, but it's gonna take my unreimbursable time ahead of time
Right.
to load this system.
right. It's almost like you're building it.
Yeah.
I mean, the blanks are there, but you still gotta build everything
You
into
still have
it.
to put the stuff in.
Right.
The inputting part. And yeah, I mean, my time for FEMA is reimbursable, so.
Right.
This wouldn't be if we were to get it in a non-disaster situation.
So it's good to know about it, and
Yeah,
If we ever
really
need
neat.
it.
I hadn't seen it before and it was really interesting and, yeah. But
Like you said, it's a big chunk in the fact that you haven't got reimbursable time. If you do it ahead of time,
right,
people are just saving money as FEMA. And you can just push the button and get the results.
right.
We have to make a motion on it, or do we just kind of, it's
Yeah.
nothing we're really interested
I
in?
would, just because.
I would make a motion that we're not interested in that proposal or software. at this
I'll
point.
second that.
All those in favor?
I,
So, budgeting. Now we can get downstairs for this.
So I have a few more appropriation requests. Some of them are just organizations whom you all had kind of tentatively put in the budget the last time. My community nurse requested the same 500. We have a couple of new ones though, so you guys should look at these. Okemo Valley TV for the 800 that they got last year. Here are three. We get these from these three organizations every year. If you guys want to take a look and see if that's anything that you want to add. Maybe someone could even read that out loud if you want to.
Okay,
In general.
the first one is from the Vermont Center for Independent Living. Dear Ms. Haight, I always say that wrong, and voters, the Vermont Center for Independent Living, VSIL, a statewide nonprofit organization dedicated to improving the quality of life for people with disabilities. Respectfully request funding from the town of Andover for our FY25 annual support from over 140 cities and towns across the state helps VSIL assist Vermonters with disabilities achieve dignified and self-determined lives. VSIL works to serve individuals who can benefit from our direct services, as well as to educate and inform members of the community about disability-related issues and independent living. Direct services are available to residents of Andover in a number of ways. Peer counselors work with residents in their homes or other locations. Small grants for adaptive equipment, Meals on Wheels for people with disabilities under the age of 60. Home access modifications, individual and systems advocacy, and programs for youth. For information, referral and assistance is available to all residents by calling VSIL. We are requesting $55 from the town of Andover to continue supporting peoples with disabilities in the coming year. Then they give us a summary for the programs and services for the town. This is for our town. Fringe benefits. What center for expenses? Oh, this is just their
That's just their
P&L
P&L.
expenses.
Does
Yeah,
it say who mostly funds them?
says 140 cities and towns.
So if they get $50 each, it adds up.
Yeah, I feel like, my opinion only, I feel like we already give to local versions of this
Yeah,
to do what they're listing here. I feel like, I feel like this would be sort of, there's like 3 different, the Meals on Wheels, Community Cares Network, the Neighborhood Connections. I feel like those 3 sort of do what this is anyway.
yeah.
You want, I don't know if you want to look at that or you want me to read the next one.
Their budget.
This one is from Vermont Family Network. Dear Select Board, the mission of Vermont Family Network, VFN, is to empower and support all Vermont children, youth, and families, especially those with disabilities and special health needs. We do this by giving a strong start, lifting family voices, and advancing inclusive communities. Formed in 2008 when 2 organizations, the Vermont Parent Information Center and Parent to Parent of Vermont, merged. VFN has collectively served families across Vermont for more than 30 years. Vermont children, youth, and families are provided with a one-stop shop to help them reach their full potential. I'm writing to you today to ask for your support in continuing to serve families in Andover and throughout the state with an appropriation of $250. Traditionally, primarily funded through state and federal grants, we find that wanting funds threatens to slow our work and minimize the number of families we can support. We are reaching out to communities like yours where we have served many families to seek your help. Your appropriation will help ensure the work we do all around the state continues with the same excellence and care that it has had for the past 30 years. We are proud to serve families with expert information, referral, and assistance services provided by family support consultants. We have offices in Williston, Newport, and Rutland. We support most families virtually. In FY24, our family support consultants served 1,370 Vermont families with one-to-one support. In addition, we have a robust website with resources for families, bi-monthly webinars, and an annual conference attended by both parents and professionals. Vermont Family Network is also home to Puppets in Education, PI, an educational puppetry team that teaches children and school staff about the important issues like anxiety awareness, bullying, child abuse, and disability awareness through engaging performances that emphasize compassion, respect, effective leadership, and communication. Last school year, 7,800 school children and adults benefited from these educational programs and workshops. Thank you for your consideration. So but they're saying that other than the puppet shows, this one is all virtual. So it's all online.
Right.
All of that's online. Again, I mean.
And we don't have any way of knowing if anybody from Andover's ever used any of these.
No, and also this is another one where they're overlapping stuff.
Well, I can tell you a little bit about this because I am familiar with it. In the school system, when there's a child that's in special ed, often if the parents are not familiar with special ed issues and IEPs and 504s, this group is available
Mm.
to have talks with, parent to parent. There will be a parent that say, their child
They counsel
has,
them how
so
to
they can counsel them back and
negotiate
forth.
that.
That's what I can tell you that I know about it. And so, yes, it is on, I don't know if it's on over the phone, online or whatnot, but that's what I know about that, parent to parent.
Yeah, both of those things seem very valuable. It's just, we have to decide whether,
Right.
what behooves us to do.
Okay, the third one, and I'll make this quick here. Request for town appropriation Vermont Rural Fire Protection Program. On behalf of the Vermont Rural Fire Protection Task Force, I'm writing to request your support for the Vermont Rural Fire Protection RFP program, formerly called the Dry Hydrant Grant Program. The RFP program helps Vermont communities protect lives, property, and natural resources by enhancing fire suppression resources. Program manager and engineering technician Troy Dare helps local fire departments identify appropriate sites for dry hydrants and other rural water supply systems, designs installations, and finds financial resources to support the cost of construction. During the 27 plus years of the program, 1,224 grants totaling over $2.9 million have been provided to Vermont towns for the installation of new rural fire protection systems, as well as for replacements and repairs. The Rural Fire Protection Program is managed by the Vermont Association of Conservation Districts, VCAD. VCAD is the membership association of Vermont's 14 natural resources conservation districts, whose mission is to work with landowners and communities to protect natural resources and support the working landscape throughout the state. The Rural Fire Protection Grant Program offers awards up to $10,000 per project. Additional federal funding can provide an additional $5,000 to $10,000 per project for more expensive special case projects. New rural fire protection systems, along with repair, replacement, relocation, upgrades of existing systems, drafting site development, and bridge-mounted dry hydrants are eligible for grant funding on an ongoing basis. And we now consider applications from Vermont towns and fire departments on a revolving basis throughout the year, rather than just once a year. The annual expense of the Rural Fire Protection Program in FY 2023 was $227,662, of which $105,483 was paid in grants to support the construction and repair of 13 rural fire protection projects throughout Vermont. The remaining budget covered site assessments, project design, and program oversight. Most of our funding comes from the Division of Fire Safety of the Vermont Department of Public Safety through annual appropriations by the Vermont legislature. In addition, the program receives support from the U.S. Forest Service through the Vermont Department of Forest, Parks, and Recreation. Unfortunately, these grants do not completely cover the costs of the program. Therefore, we are respectfully requesting that you include a $200 appropriation in your town budget to support the Rural Fire Protection Program. In FY 2023, we received $9,150 in town appropriations from 90 towns. We are deeply grateful for your support. And then it just says thank you for your time and connect me with questions. Well, I feel like that these are all, yes. I mean, the fire one is different to me, but these two that have to do with kind of health, welfare, disabilities, children with disabilities, families, and maybe I'm wrong about the second one because you know more about it than I do, but I feel like that we would just be doubling up on what we're already putting into our tinier community and these that we're already putting money into.
Yeah, I agree.
So I would move that we don't do those two, the family. I move that the Vermont Family Network and the VSIL, the Vermont Center for Independent Living, that we don't give money to them. Right. Someone's got to second it.
I'll second it.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye. Okay. So this fire one, and it used to be called the Dry Hydrant Grant Program. I feel like, Jeanette, I feel like in the last couple of years, this sort of came up also.
Yeah, Chris, do you remember the history of
Steiger's
some of
Road,
this?
right?
Right.
Yeah.
He was gonna do it privately, but it could be used, and he wanted the town
Okay,
to
so-
support it financially.
Yeah, or something.
After
So we,
talking to the fire department was like, no.
no, we're not doing that. So,
We're not driving up
So
there.
is
I don't
this-
think that relates to our town, does it?
I don't think it does.
We,
as much
we,
as-
we could put them in, you have to coordinate with Chester Fire Department,
Then they have to be maintained.
Right.
we maintain and
And,
everything.
right now, I just don't.
Flushed and-
it kind of puts you into a program which is gonna cost you money. Like, it's not just the $200, it's that you have to
If you take
Well,
advantage of the program.
maintain it, yeah.
We just give $200, but
Right, if it was just, but
what's
in
the
other
point
words,
in giving them $200 if you're not gonna have a dry hydrant?
right. I mean, yeah, it's like you're giving, yeah. So I guess I would move with this rural Vermont fire protection program that this is not for us right now either.
I second it.
Okay.
What's the favor?
All right,
Aye.
okay. So it looks like, Jeanette, we have all of our appropriations, which is what we were just talking about, but it looks like we have numbers in all of that. So basically, we've put money in the budget for all of the different appropriations that we know work for us and that we've talked about. Okay, so do you guys want to go up to the utilities?
Can we do that right now?
Can we do that?
Well,
No, because it's not the end of the
we're
year.
gonna have time in January, and those are some of the things that we tend to wait a
Wait,
little longer
okay.
for, because we're just barely getting a sense of what winter might look like.
Okay,
So in the past, we've always put off fuel and oil, heat,
okay,
electricity, phone, until as late as possible,
Alright.
so we have a very good
So-
sense of what it's gonna cost. I would say, I certainly have some thoughts on income, we could throw a few numbers in there. Again, you guys are gonna want to look at where we are for wages in January, make some decisions about pay.
okay.
And usually in executive session, I think you've done that
Yeah.
before you put numbers there.
Mhm.
I would say, I mean, you could put a number toward highway equipment repairs and maintenance, although, I mean, that's always a kind of a shot in the dark, but you could put a number in there to get that done at least temporarily. And then, as you remember, in the very last time we talk about budgeting, we run through, see what the total is, and then decide if there are things we want to change at that point. Because we're actually, like I said, in really good shape at
Right.
this point.
So, maybe this is a good time, or maybe this isn't a good time because we're talking about this, but also I would move that we, don't do the December 23rd meeting because it's 2 days before Christmas. I would move that we don't do that meeting
Yeah, we just don't have.
That we just don't have them.
Anyway,
because of the holiday. Anyone else?
I would second that. If anyone else is on board with that, skipping that.
Yeah,
meeting.
that's fine with me.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So maybe then, since we are moving toward the end of the year and so much of this really has to, well, you said other income though, right? We could maybe do that.
We can-
tonight.
We can do some things. I mean, if you look at where we are for some of those, yeah, the other income category, we back into the municipal taxes, if you remember.
Right,
That's not, we can't stab at that. We back into it by what the grand list ends up
Right.
at. And by what budget is actually voted on at town meeting.
right,
So that will depend on what this total budget looks like.
yeah,
Then you go, oh, okay, well, how much to get to that 1 point whatever million?
Right.
How much do we need in taxes after we figure everything else out? So that's the last number that we come up with.
yeah,
Delinquent tax is always 0. Again, kind of going by what's already there, state gas tax. I don't know if you guys want to leave that at 90 or inch it up a little bit, although the push for electric vehicles is still there. And, the more electric is on the road, I think, right, Chris? Am I
Yeah.
thinking correctly?
The less
gas
money you're gonna
tax
get from
we're gonna
gas.
collect.
Yeah, they gotta figure out highway use tax for the electric vehicles.
Right, and that might not even look the same or come to us in the same way if there ever is such a thing. So maybe that one has to stay the same.
Stay the lower.
90.
All right.
So the municipal tax adjustment has to do with, the loss of income to the town for credit. It's very similar to the education tax credit that income, it's an income sensitivity thing for folks. So some folks do, not only are eligible for an education tax credit, but also a municipal tax credit. And the state gives us money to offset that. We only budgeted 7, they tell us what it is, so again, we're guessing, but it looks to me, because we got 11,000 this year, that we could up the budget to 9,000.
Well, I'm just curious because I never heard of it. Is it something to do with senior citizens or something?
It can be, it's again, it's the same type. So when you send in your income taxes and the state looks at who gets education tax credits, some people are on a very small income and also are then eligible to have credit put toward their municipal taxes as well.
Cool.
So I was thinking like 9,000.
Okay.
Current use, again, that amount is sent to us by the state to offset the properties that are in current use, so we're not getting a full tax amount for those properties. We're only getting an amount for the usable part of their property. It's always hard to say what that will be. I don't know if leaving it at 40 maybe makes the most sense. It hasn't increased that much.
Have we had more people put their land into current use?
Yes. And that trend might continue, because when you buy a large piece of property, which Andover still has lots of large parcels, that is the most logical way to keep your taxes down.
Right.
So we have 42 on that.
42?
And you had 44 last year and you have more properties going in. Should, what do you say? And interest income's gonna be down.
Well, the Fed isn't lowering it yet, and we're only halfway through the year and have $5,000 already. I don't think it's going to drop so much that we won't make $5,000 next year. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're making a lot of money in interest right now.
So are you suggesting we keep it at 5?
Well, it's
Or
at
keep it at
3
3?
for this year. I would increase it to 5, because if the Fed doesn't drop the rate in this fiscal year, we only have 6 months left to go. We're going to end up with $10,000 in interest. Yay us.
Right.
But I wouldn't be against, and if it, again, we can look in January if we get some indication that interest rates are really going to go down. But I mean, what do you think, Chris? Does it make sense just to put it at 5 when we're going to make 10 this year? Or do you think the interest rates are looking, do you think they're going to drop?
No idea what Trump's gonna do.
Right. I mean, when the Fed met, that everybody thought that right after the election, when they met, that they were going to drop interest rates, and they didn't. They said, you know what? I don't think we're going to do that, because inflation is not really a thing right now.
If we put it at like 6 or 7.
Yeah, Rich.
What do you think? 6?
Yeah, over 6.
Reporting and copy fees, again, we've made a lot in the last couple of years. Real estate sales have slowed. Once we go through the reappraisal process and everything has a much higher value, it may slow that even further. So I would drop that number from this year's budget, honestly. I mean, maybe back it down to 8,000, and it may be even less. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, it's good.
8?
Yeah.
I mean, last year we ended up with, what, 10 or 11, but we knew that that wasn't going to last. And then for the other income area, usually what you do is you just pick a total. Budget a total, not individual items. They're just listed there so you have some idea where our money comes from. You know, building permits, I think, are gonna continue to be on that high end like that. The insurance refund income is, you know, a shot in the dark, but I feel like overall we could increase that category a little bit. But tell me if you disagree.
So do you want to raise that total at the bottom maybe to 3,000?
Yeah, I was thinking total other income, we could do 3,000. I mean, right now we could even put in 3,500 and see where we are in
Yeah.
January even.
Okay.
35.
You wanna do 35? Yeah. The very last line, payroll software subscription, that is going to be at least $800 next year is my understanding. I'll double check that and report back at the next meeting if it's different than that.
So we'll put it at 8 or
Mhm.
just.
Yep.
And it could be more. Do you want some really good money news?
Yeah.
Sweet, I have to get my papers. People are gonna be watching this going, who is the talking person that we can't see?
No, right?
Okay. So as you may remember, FEMA reimbursement was at 75%, but because of the total of the July 2023 storm, because the total increased, we are now at 90% reimbursement.
Nice.
So we got a lot of money last week. So the town of Andover spent $983,519.86 on the flood.
Jeez.
We have, as of today, been reimbursed $961,755.52.
That's
So we are only out at this point in time, $21,764.
Go,
That is
Jeanette.
And
beautiful.
we have not yet finished. So category Z, which is administrative, which is mostly 95% my time, that time total is already up to $30,000 for reimbursement. So I think we will not have spent a dime, or we will not be out any money,
Wow,
which
that's
is
awesome.
which was our goal.
That's great.
Thinking we could make that happen, and we did,
That's remarkable.
isn't it? I can't tell you how happy I was to open the
Wow.
bank account last week and go, oh, look at that,
Oh, man.
$130,000.
Wow.
You worked hard for
Wow,
that.
just
yeah,
gonna say-
congratulations, Jeanette. You're the one that did it. That's incredible. So, I mean, what we lost is the time you spent on that. You could have theoretically been,
Writing grants or something.
yeah, but whatever. Wow, that is remarkable.
That is
And one of the
remarkable.
things that I worked with, so the accountant that I work with, going through the books every year, she files our quarterly tax reports and things like that. One of the things I said to her that occurred to me as I was putting reimbursement money back into the bank accounts, into the budget, was I said, we're gonna look at budgets 5 years from now and say, why in the world did we spend so much in wages that fiscal year? So she helped me correctly show in QuickBooks a piece of that money that we're being reimbursed going against what we spent in wages, because it wasn't in there like that. So it just looked like we had hemorrhaged all these wages and it wasn't shown as going back
Oh, yeah.
in. So she helped me find a way. When I talked her through my thought process, she said, I get what you're saying. That's not really the right way to do it. Let me show you the right way to do it, so that we see that amount of wages offset, so it looks like it should had we not had a flood. And that was really important. I'm like, this needs to not look like we just way overspent on wages for some crazy reason, and for in 5 years we don't remember why.
Why, yeah.
Right.
So that was I felt good about, I went through every road project and went through every spreadsheet and accounted for all the guys' straight time, not overtime, straight time, so that I could come up with a figure for every single road so that I could say, okay, we're getting reimbursed $12,000 for this road. 5,800 of it was for wages, so I could put it in the proper place in the budget
Nice.
so that it shows in there. It's not gonna be really obvious in the town, it might show up in the town report just because it nets out, and I just put totals in this spreadsheet, which is what goes in the town report. So, so I felt really good about that. So as of this reimbursement, the highway fund has been completely replenished.
Nice.
Wow.
And we are only missing, oh, I don't have it. We spent $50,000 in the tax stabilization fund, and almost all of that is back in also. So we've almost replenished that fund, and still have the Cat Z reimbursement. So once we get to the point where we're bringing in more than we spent, I guess maybe it should be a topic at town meeting. I guess my suggestion would be, if it's extra money, that you all consider it going into the tax stabilization fund, which is our slush fund. Because as we've quickly discovered in this disaster, $50,000 doesn't pay for anything. It pays for one contractor's day and 10 loads of rocks, and that's it. So maybe because it's money coming back that could go in and just sit in that fund and earn interest, that might be a consideration. But again,
No, I
that'll
think
be
that's
up to you.
great
And
idea.
it may, ask, it might be a good question for town meeting. The money's not gonna do any harm sitting where it is until we get voter feedback.
Right.
Oh.
Get their capital equipment when they do. Capital equipment's gonna need money for it.
Right. And you budgeted for that, and you budgeted the surplus from
Yeah.
last year to that also. There needs to be a way to build up that tax stabilization or slush fund, because again, $50,000 doesn't do anything.
Yeah, you have more than that, you might as well not even have it.
And if we do have it, then next time we don't rob from other funds
Right.
to pay for what we need to pay for. So just a thought.
So we're actually in pretty good shape here with this budget. I mean, we're almost down to the point where we really need to sort of get to that point where,
I did email Julie Hanson Chester to see if I can get a rough number from her. I did not hear from her yet, so we don't have that number.
oh yeah,
Insurance, I should be able to have for the next meeting. They are on a calendar year. So, I mean, as you can see, we've already spent 17 and we only budgeted for 30, so, I mean, that number is gonna need to be at least 35. And our insurance is increasing, but again, I just got the first quarter bill, so I'll look and see what that's gonna be. So you all can budget appropriately for that. That'll be an easy number to plug in once it gets out. And yeah, the utilities will be kind of easy to see once we have a better sense of how winter is proceeding. Then it will just be equipment. And keeping, highway materials probably just once we get a better sense of how winter's playing out.
There's not much more we could do tonight, am I correct?
Yeah, unless you wanted to put tentative numbers for the highway equipment and for the fuel. But again, that can just as easily be done next time in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
With 2 months or another month's worth of numbers.
Yeah, and Richard's always a good input in that.
Yeah.
And
All right, so I move with that, we move away from the budget for this evening.
Yeah, I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Financial orders.
Along with, well, this sort of correspondence, well, it is. Just like the Chester Snowmobile Club asked for permission to use certain roads, the Andover Mountaineer Snow Riders are also asking for permission to use certain roads. Here are financial orders.
I make a motion that we accept their, or grant them the permission to use those.
And it looks like the same ones. The road crossing at Middletown Road, Marsh Hill, North Hill. So the road crossings, North Hill, Newton, Dorman, Spruce, West and Andover Road. They have two crosses, and Andover Ridge and O's Road.
Were you gonna ask a question?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry, and I
I was
interrupted
just,
you.
no.
You made the motion.
Right, I made the motion too.
Oh, I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
So if you want to sign that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
Thank you. Yep. Thanks.
Wait a minute, did I have the meeting? I wasn't at
That's
this meeting.
incredible, and we don't even have a messy loan or any.
I know, after all of that, and we're clearing, I mean,
Done this.
I will be getting back more money than.
Really shocking.
I know, and the whole town of Andover and all of Andover's pets and all of the natural resources of Andover and all of Andover's natural animals owe Jeanette their homage for doing all of that.
Yeah,
It
so
was a lot of work.
That
wasn't
was
it, Jeanette?
Out of control amounts of.
We are
it's
thankful.
so
You need to
great
sign
that
that
it was so great that it was able to get wrapped up this year
It is.
at our last meeting of the year.
I know. Okay, there you are. I didn't sign the one because I wasn't here.
Oh, I need to sign it. Any minutes?
No, she didn't
I
sign
signed
it.
it.
We may have to plan some kind of a ticker tape parade for Jeanette.
Keep saying.
Build,
Necessary.
build a float and make her ride on the float. Thank you, Jeanette, parade.
Hey, I'm a taxpayer. I'm just as invested as everybody else.
I know, but,
I get paid to be invested.
I know, but still.
I pay in, but I also get paid out to be invested.
I don't. I don't know.
I don't know what you guys are talking about.
But you heard what I said,
Yeah, but I don't think, I think we usually talk about that in a,
like early, yeah.
no, in
yeah,
a private meeting,
yeah,
I think.
know. But usually it is before the end of the year, so.
Oh,
Well, we have correspondence and things, and I'm sure if you had something under
When do we have
potentially
the next-
correspondence, next meeting is in January.
so
You can say all this out loud, you just don't say, if you're talking about money,
right.
Right,
just, you would want to go into executive session
Right,
for
I'm-
amounts, but talk about
But you
it
heard what I
first.
said.
yeah, I did.
Christmas bonuses, is that what we're talking about, or are we talking about?
Yeah, I think that's what we're talking about, but I don't know that we want to talk about it in an open meeting.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you have to start the conversation
So
and
I
then move to go into.
make a motion that we go into
I
executive
second it.
Okay.
Say the whole thing, please.
session to talk about Christmas bonuses. Anybody want to second it?
Yeah, I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.